Are you thinking about selling your house? It can feel overwhelming, but don't worry. My team and I are here to help make the process simple, smooth, and stress-free. I'll walk you through exactly how we do it every step of the way. You can stop and watch just chapters of this because I know it can get a little long. And then you'll know what to expect, how we'll work together to get your home sold quickly and for top dollar. As a seller, you need me to do a comparative market analysis to begin with for your property in order to determine what the property is worth. So I'll get a comparable property list for properties in the area that usually have sold within the last 6 months or so. Nothing that's currently listed. We can't really count those. The properties need to be in similar size, land, and condition. And then looking at all of these factors is how we see what your property is worth. And that's what a CMA is. Different from an appraisal and also different from what the county assessor sends you. So after sending the CMA to you, that's typically when I'll schedule your listing appointment. This will be a semi-formal sit down. We can sit at the kitchen table and walk through your property as well together and discuss goals, timelines, and next steps. If there's time prior to that appointment, we will drop off or email you listing preparation documents so you can review all of the information that we've prepared. And during the listing appointment is your chance to ask all kinds of questions, find out how we'll work for you, how we'll make your house famous, how we'll work together. And it's our chance to gather more detailed information from you about the property so that we are able to do the best job that we can in pricing it, marketing it, and leveraging that property to bring the right buyer to you and get it sold for the maximum amount of money possible in the shortest amount of time possible. You don't want listings to sit. You lose money when they sit. And that's the purpose of a listing appointment. So once we've decided to work together, after these two things have happened and my team begins to prepare the house for listing, I'm going to get kind of bossy. Normally, people need to remove about 75 to 50% of their stuff that's in their house. So we will get personal items out first so that when buyers come in, they can see the whole scope of the property and not be interrupted in their vision of you living in the property. They want to see themselves living there, and it's important. That's generally the beginning of staging. And then we'll add items back in that highlight important features of the home. And when we're ready for photos, we'll turn all the lights on, pick the right time of day, have the blinds up, and get everything squared away. The photographer comes in, we do photo, we try to do video the same day. And this is where the marketing starts because on photo day, we take sneak peek pictures and virtual tour videos, and we push that out all over our social media channels and throughout the course of the listing. But we start with that day. You're probably going to ask what we do to get the property sold that might be different than other realtors. And we have an extensive marketing plan, but it starts with leveraging the local real estate community to get out to see your property. And that's usually in the form of a broker open, which is scheduled regularly in our MLS every Thursday morning, usually now every other Thursday morning. So we get that on the calendar so that you're aware of the date. And then I also love to do a neighborhood open that's more kind of like a party. And that's inviting neighbors in the community out for snacks and information sheets. And so they can think of who they want to be in the neighborhood. Neighbors are a little nosy anyways, so having a chance to preview the property will hopefully allow them to tell the right friends and family about the property so that they get those people out to see it. And then finally, of course, we do open houses. We try to schedule them creatively with things like giveaways and games because we're more spread out in our area and it can be really hard to get folks out to open houses. But we have had success with contests and giveaways and even combining open house efforts with other agents. So we do all of those things. Not to mention, of course, all the photo and video content of your property. Like I said, we try to make it famous. It'll be on YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. Your property is going to be there, as well as paid ads on many of those sites. And then, of course, all the regular real estate websites like Realtor, Zillow, Homes.com, and so on. Now that we're working together, I will see you a ton and send you a lot of paperwork. We've got the main contract, which is the parent document that creates all of the others, and that's the exclusive right to sell. That's the contract between myself and you and employs me as your agent with the right to sell your property and work in your behalf. At the beginning of the contract, it's going to state that I'm a multiple person firm since I belong to a multiple person brokerage. And then I'll have names and just make sure those are correct with how it is on your legal ID, such as a driver's license. And then we'll have the address, which is also below it is a legal description. And the actual mailing of the mailing address of the property needs to be correct on there, but also the legal description. Then there'll be the listing period, which covers the time when we start being in charge of the listing until when it sells. And well before the listing period ends, or if there's a time when the property doesn't sell within that period, we evaluate if we want to continue listing the property. There's also dates and deadlines, computation of dates and deadlines. So if we want deadlines to be extended beyond holidays and weekends, we decide that. This document also outlines my duties to you, the price which we will set, and which MLS the property will go on, the compensation that you will pay, and what you're willing to pay me, and if you're willing to pay a buyer's agent, which we can talk about that in great detail when we meet. There's going to be a couple other things towards the bottom of the contract, like other compensation, and I usually like to put if there's photography or videography that's extra special, that you will be able to keep or retain those if you pay for those items. Otherwise, I own them. And the very end of this contract has things about property access, like who is allowed to access the property and when, and what kind of lockbox we'll use, what MLSs I belong to, because there's multiple to market your property more fully, etc. That's about it. This document is the most important document of all of the others because it sets the precedent for everything else that we'll do in our relationship as agent and client. And it sets me up to be employed by you legally. So the other document besides the exclusive right to sell that you'll see are the seller's property disclosure. And that's going to be the one that you have to do the most work on. And we won't do that until you actually go under contract because we want it to be up to date. So you'll read through all these documents, but the one you actually have to read and reply to is that property disclosure because it is an extensive list of everything on your property that has happened in the past or any work that's been done on your property. So you'll want to, in detail, share any damages or repairs or improvements on there. And then you'll get that to me and we'll give it to who the interested buyer is so that they can review it. I don't want you to sign the seller's property disclosure until after we have a buyer because it locks the contract. And you may do other improvements or things may come up that we need to note. And we want it to be 100% honest and straightforward. Have the most up-to-date information. So you're going to add other items to it probably throughout the listing as you think of them. And then when you think of them, you can stick them on there. Don't sign it because then it locks. Once we go under contract, we'll provide it signed to the buyer and it helps them know what's the history of the property is. The next couple documents I'll talk about in one big group because they're all very short and pretty simple. They're one-pagers here. We have source of water. So if it's on a well or on city water, municipality, that's all noted. Or if it doesn't have water. And then there is, that document is also noted on the seller's property disclosure, but we can have it here separately so it's very clear. And it just needs to have the details. Like if you have a well, we need your well permit number, for example, so that we can look at that well permit for the next property owner. Next is the square footage disclosure. And unless we're listing a piece of land, we don't use that. But if it's a building, we have measurements that we take and or we can get it from the county assessor's site. And then we input all of that into one document and provide it to the buyer with your signature. So it certifies that, this is what the size of the property is. Unless you've done extensive remodeling or additions, it will come straight off of the assessor site. That's pretty straightforward. Properties built before 1978 need to have lead-based paint disclosure forms. And recently in Colorado, there's also a radon disclosure form showing if you've ever tested for radon. And then we send you a brochure so you can know about that and buyers can know about it too. They have another brochure they can read. They have the right to test for radon if they want to. So those two forms kind of go together because they're disclosures for things that might be dangerous in the property, but generally they can be tested for. Then we have closing instructions, and that's the document where we employ the title company. It's a pretty straightforward document, but if you can choose the title company, or you can have me help you choose the title company at the beginning, it makes things simpler once we go under contract. There are some great title companies, and I can share with you or make introductions if you need that. It says that there is a fee on that form that the title company charges. It's usually a couple $100. And it also says who the closer is going to be. And on the fee, just know that that's usually split half between buyer and seller. Then finally, we have an affiliated business disclosure, and that is because my brokerage owns a title company and a lending company as well. So we may not be using either their title company or their lending company, but the brokerage as a whole still has to share that they own these affiliated businesses. It's a Colorado law. So one final thing to know about is wire fraud. So the closing company that we choose will send documents about this too, and they usually will use a secure portal to communicate with you and me because they want to make sure that your money doesn't get stolen, since wire fraud is such a real risk today. When you're wiring money, or like the earnest money fees or the closing money, just make sure that you're in direct contact with your financial institution and you've confirmed with somebody there their wiring instructions, and also check with the title company and confirm instructions with them so that you're clear that it's the right instructions from the right people on both ends. After we've gone through all of this preparatory work and paperwork, we've looked at contracts, we agree on what it should be priced at, we do the final sequence of things like getting photos and descriptions perfected, getting the maximum amount of video content we can use to boost the visibility of your listing, signage and flyers, and fun marketing opportunities like neighborhood get-togethers. Then we get a spare key or a garage code for the lockbox. The lockboxes we use are great, and we'll probably still use them even if you have a keyless entry, because these lockboxes record electronically who enters the property and when they open the box. And so I like to have a record of that. Once that's all set up and everything else looks good to you and to us, then your listing can go live. So we'll send you a live listing email with a link to your listing. If there's anything you need changed, let us know. We are happy to adjust it. We love your advice and your input and your feedback. And we'll immediately do that. An update may take a minute to take place on the internet, but we'll take care of it right away, and then you'll see it to start to update on the internet sites one by one usually. It's a collaborative process, so if there's things that you feel that would help your listing sell, please tell us by text, email, or phone, and we'll fix it. We want to do a really good job for you. We'll also start boosting the property with ads on different websites. We pay for ads to get your property out there for people to see on Facebook and Google and those types of places. You'll have showing requests start to come in from showing time. So you'll get calls, texts, or emails, depending on your preference, saying, so-and-so wants to see your property at this day and time. And then you can approve or deny the showing. So if you deny, just touch base with me and I'll go in and suggest other times to those that are trying to see the property or talk to them about what might else work. And that way we are all in communication and getting the maximum amount of buyers to view your property as often as possible. We want to get buyers in there to see it in person. The more people that see it, the more likely it is to get sold. So when we get word that we might be receiving an offer, we do our very best to let everyone that's ever seen the property have a chance at also sending an offer. Competition is good for selling, selling at the best possible price. We want to create that competition. So the maximum amount of offers is our goal, and specifically maximum amount of offers all at the same time can drive the price up. So we get the word out to everyone. We invite all of them to send an offer. If they're interested in doing so, we give them a deadline to do that by, and then together we have a meeting. I have a spreadsheet usually where I put everything down and we review the offers that have been submitted and go over all of the details. A good offer has a lot of components. Pricing is number one, but that's not the only thing, because they may be asking for, like money back. So we want to look at the full price. Also, timing. Do they want early access to the property before they own it? There's all sorts of components to an offer, and we want to look at the whole picture. Who is their lender, or are they cash? How soon do they want to move in? And does that work with your schedule? We'll review all those things in a detailed way. Like I said, I have a spreadsheet that lines it all up, and we'll make sure that it's just the right fit for you. There could be a chance that we won't receive offers on the property, and we'll be updating you every week by phone, email, or text message if you prefer, so that you know what showings you've had, what the feedback has been on those showings, and we may want to talk about adjusting the price if that happens. We'll do this together by talking through the comparables that we started with from the CMA, what has been happening in the local market, what we're seeing as a whole, and then what competition you have in the area, and what has actually sold. And then we'll do our best to actually get your property sold. That's always our goal. The last thing I want to talk about is the closing. So we've accepted an offer. We've made it through inspection and appraisal. After those appointments are over, you can kind of sit back and relax. Those might interrupt a little bit your daily flow, but if you're not in the property, it won't, no worries. The inspection and appraisal are the buyer's responsibility to schedule and take care of, and you just need to allow access for those things. You can usually be in the property for the appraisal, and the buyers do not come with the appraiser, but they do come for the inspection. So once those are completed and it's smooth sailing from there, hopefully, you can wait and sit back for closing, and we can do a mail out closing if you're not going to be local at that time. And if you are local, we will make sure that we meet up at the title company to go through the documents together. If you're remote closing, not local, we can do that over the phone. And I'm always available by phone to review what you need to review before you sign them. So just know that there's a couple of options there. Your money that you receive once you sell the property usually gets wired to you within that same day if it's before 2 o'clock, or 24 hours of signing the papers. And then your property is officially sold. We will keep checking in with you after closing to make sure that things are still going smoothly with having funds and transitioning out of the area. And the last thing we ask of you is leave us a review. If you have appreciated our service and it's gone well for you, and you think that someone else might benefit from the type of service we provide and selling their property too, we would love for you to share that information with others via Google review or experience.com. That's how people find us. We'll send you a link in an email. We have a template even, makes it extra easy. You just fill in the blanks and then you can post it under your own username. It helps us attract the right kinds of clients just like you, the people that we love to work with. And that way we can do our best to help them too. That was a lot, but if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment so I know that you're out there, or leave a question. I'm here to help, and let me sell your house.